Last month saw the golfing world descend on England's northwest coast for the 146th Open Championship. Arguably the busiest man at Royal Birkdale was world-renowned putting coach Phil Kenyon. His roster of players is a who's who of the biggest names in golf. We caught up with him between lessons to find out how he became one of the most sought-after coaches in the game.
When I finished university, I turned professional and was a sort of aspiring playing professional myself for about 5 years. But after that sort of came to an end, really, I kind of took my hand into coaching. I was lucky that at that time I had a mentor in a guy called Harold Swash, who was sort of fairly well-known putting coach. And he'd helped me with my game and I'd always had an interest in that part of the game, so it was just naturally something that I gravitated to once I decided that I was going to try and focus on coaching rather than playing.
As one of the highest regarded coaches in the game, demands on Kenyon's time are great, which requires him being on the road a lot, as well as working from his state-of-the-art putting studio.
I travelled to a lot of the tournaments through the year, so I could be at 20 to 25 tour events. And the day-to-day work there would be just really helping the players in their practice. So, spent outdoors on the putting green, making sure they're going through their sort of practice routines and keeping them on top of what they're working on. Tournament days would be helping them warm up and then maybe warm down afterwards. When I'm not at a tournament, I'll be in the studio that we have at Formby Hall in Southport, and that would be sort of working with the clients and students that we have. We'll spend some time indoors. We have various sort of equipment in there which we'll use, some sort of 3D analysis, video, stuff like that. So we'll use a lot of that time to really get sort of in depth and analyse what they're doing, and from which we could then take to tournaments or their everyday practice.
With a clientele ranging from major winners to aspiring professionals, no two players are alike for Kenyon, although the objective for each pupil is the same.
The requirements are pretty similar. They all want to hold more putts, really, but I guess every player is different, so you might tailor what you do with them. But generally, the requirements aren't really too different. Any player that comes and has to work with you, the main focus is to putt better. So that's your remit, and you might tackle that process differently with each player depending on the personality of the player or the issues the player has.
With the likes of Rory McIlroy, Henrik, Stenson and Justin Rose among the players on Kenyon's books, unsurprisingly, Open Week is one of the busiest in his calendar.
This week, like any other major week, is really just about helping the guys prepare for the tournament. Your work is essentially done by the time you've got here. Hopefully all the players know what they need to be doing, and it's a case of just making sure that they're preparing in the right way. So it's more a case of like supervising their practice, making sure they're going through their routines and they understand what they're doing and that they're happy. And then obviously spending some time out on the golf course and essentially helping them prepare for the different challenges that the greens or that course may bring on that given week.
Kenyon may have given up on his dreams of winning the Open as a player, but seeing his pupils lift the claret jug is consolation enough for his efforts.
As a young boy, like the Open Championship's always been something that's inspired me, to sort of, when I was younger, to sort of playing, and then obviously later on to even just to come here and coach. So I was at Birkdale 10 years ago, and it was one of the sort of first times I'd coached at a major, and so to be involved with 2 Open champions. So I worked with Darren Clark when he won at St George's, and then last year to work with Henrik. I think there are 2 moments that sort of I can take to my grave and sort of highlights for me.
If the advice is good enough for the likes of Stenson and Clark, it is certainly good enough for the rest of us. So, just what is the secret to getting the ball in the hole?
If you break putting down into its simplest skills, you've got to be able to start a ball on line, control your speed and read a green. So from my perspective, I try and help players establish ways to control those 3 elements. So there are lots of different techniques or methods that you could use in terms of how you, what you do in the stroke to help you start the ball on line. So I wouldn't say that I always work with one method with all players. It's a case of trying to look at their strengths and weaknesses technically and look at their pattern and try and make them a better version of themselves. So I think it's very individually based in that way. But I think a lot of club golfers underappreciate green reading. So a lot of club golfers I come across, might have kind of a bit of a funky stroke or whatever, but can start a ball on line reasonably well, but have no concept of how to read a green. So I'd look at those 3 areas where the student may break down and put a plan in to try and improve those 3 skills.